everyone, and welcome to this session this evening. If you are not able to get online tonight, we had some technical issues, which hopefully this will make up for you to keep this presentation, and you can feel free to share with people as well. So this is all about weight around the middle. So yes, it goes without saying that, of course, diet and exercise do have some kind of impact on your weight. But what this is mainly all about is if you put weight specifically on your belly. So that could mean that you're either fairly slim all over and put weight on your belly, or you could still be overweight in other different areas, but specifically you put this on your belly. So this is what this is all about. So even though we can be real, we can consider things like our time in our lives and hormones and other things like this. There is something else that is going on here. And there's going to be some tips at the end here that you can take away. So do stay till the end to find out what they are, because these are things that you can do immediately now that you've got this information. So what is it all about today then? We're looking at how the body stores fat, why it stores it in the belly in some people, and then how to actually go ahead and reduce that. And I'll talk a little bit more about adrenal fatigue intermittently through this, because belly fat is actually one of the symptoms of adrenal fatigue. So you might already be kind of pricking your ears up and thinking, yes, this relates to me. So there are two kind of types of people. The ones that kind of not seem to put on weight ever, but also there's ones that you don't realize are actually putting quite a bit of weight on. It's just that they are holding it in the middle. Okay. And then what happens with the body is when fat comes along, it has a decision to make. It decides to either store it as fat or burn it off as energy. Okay, and there's certain reasons why it decides to store it as fat, and that is what we are coming on to. So the best news, I guess, we can hear today is that it's not just diet and exercise. Yes, it's not just diet and exercise to release the weight around your belly. Actually, there's an underlying biochemistry that's going on, okay? And it needs to be able to trust you again. So what I can say is that once you start to implement some of these things, you'll notice that your mood generally increases. Everything on this list here, if you've been experiencing headaches, they tend to dissolve as well. You start to go up that positive spiral. You'll start to see a difference in even your skin, okay? Because what's actually happening is when there's weight around the belly, it can be causing quite a lot of health problems. So there's more to just putting on weight in this area. There's something that's actually impacting your health. So it's weird to think that the body is holding on to this fat because there's a benefit to it. What benefit is there then if it's also causing some dis-ease? And that is what we're coming on to too. But the mind might also be holding on to something. So the mind, the reason for it to hold on to it, or the reason for you to not want to lose the weight, is because it's also protecting you from something. And that is something that's going a little bit deeper, something that we're not covering today. What we want to cover is, why is the body holding on to it, and why can't we just get rid of that fat on the belly? So before we go into things a little bit further, it might be worthwhile just to introduce myself a little bit more, why I'm doing this webinar, why I keep mentioning adrenal fatigue. So for me, I spent a long time working in corporate in quite a heavy role, lots of different roles, and quite a lot of stress, and looking back, dealing with a lot really, and not just in work, but outside of work. But also my mindset was very go, go, go. I did see things action orientated. I did see things as challenges. And although that really got me quite far in my career, it also gave me a lot of symptoms such as migraines, insomnia, anxiety, fatigue, and this fat around the middle, which I could never get rid of. And it took me a really long time to slow down. But when I started to learn about the mind and body, this is when I discovered that there's more to what's going on underneath. And I retrained. So I retrained in all sorts of different things. Neuro-linguistic programming as a coach and facilitator, NLP, hypnotherapy, I learned about anatomy, physiology, and pathology. I learned about energy healing, became a Reiki master. So I kind of just took the whole body, mind, and soul approach on in terms of my own healing, because I was in a place where I was not living my best life. I was absolutely exhausted. I couldn't stay up late. I would then drink or take caffeine, and I still drink coffee from time to time, but it was a very much intense kind of life. Work hard, play hard, and I never really let myself properly rest. I would just get to the point of exhaustion where I couldn't do anything, until it got to the point where the straw really does break the camel's back. And I have a whole other webinar on this particular topic, which now forms part of the Adrenal Fatigue Bundle, how my cortisol built and the timeline and how I overcame it. So I retrained on all these different things and then set up in the wellness business to basically share all these things with other people, what they might not know, such as why you're holding fat around the middle. And it's so much more than what we think it is. It is so much more than just diet and exercise. So we do believe it's a lot to do with this. And as I said, there are two types of people, and some people really just love that. And, you know, it really works for them, eating lean and exercising a lot. And, you know, it's amazing, and they're not generally stressed as people, hopefully. That's fine. But what I'm talking to and who I'm talking to is those that don't, okay? Those that tend to seem to almost put weight on the more you try, okay? And there's something in that, okay? There's a reason for that, because stress is what is helping you hold on to your weight around the middle. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the biochemical reasons as to why. So before I do, I want to look at different types of stress. So if cortisol is responsible for a big part of our belly fat, and like I said, it's not that I'm dismissing diet and exercise, it's that I'm talking about the big contributor to specifically fat around the middle. If stress is the factor for this, then look at all the different types of stress that we're dealing with. Now, something to point out here is that the body doesn't know the difference between physical stress, psychological stress, life and death stress. And so even something like dehydration is stress on the body, okay? That's a lot for the cells to handle. It impacts all the systems in the body, and that's why drinking water can help you lose weight, okay? For example, now you know why, but there's lots of other reasons as well. So it could be the fact that you've had surgery, okay? The body is stressed. It's trying to heal itself. So if you try to go back to work too soon, for example, after pregnancy or something like this, then again, you're causing extra stress, which guess what? Brings extra fat around the middle. So there can be things like not saying no. So when you're just putting yourself in positions and situations that don't resonate with you, that is an underlying stress constantly. You know, if you're not happy in your relationship, for example, if you're eating processed food is a big stress for the body, or too much heavy meals. These are all stresses. The things that I've written down in red here are all the things that I've done a specific webinar on that now forms part of the Adrenal Fatigue Bundle, which I will share with you a little bit later. So I'll even share with you a photograph of what I was like when I was at my worst compared to getting back into health. So from here, we're looking at then, why is the body holding stress in the belly? Okay, what is even stress? So we talked about cortisol. What is it? Cortisol is when your body is in fight and flight. So it's used to help save your life. So of course, getting away from something, running away from something, or hiding, trying to fight your way out of something. But as you've just seen in those different types of stressors, the modern day stresses could be things like your toddler screaming at you in a supermarket. You know, it could be the fact that you've been isolated inside your house for a long time with nowhere to go. It could be that you've received a really hateful message through somebody you'd never met before online. And these are things that impact your stress level. So what happens under stress then? That's where we have adrenaline. adrenaline actually creates the physical changes in the body. It helps us to get alert and ready to move fast. It skips the whole cortex conscious thinking. Doesn't need to analyze at that point. It's just going very instinctively, very primal. I need to move. I need to get out of here. What the cortisol does, which stays in the body a lot longer than adrenaline, is it stores any excess as fat in case it needs it again, in case you need to run, in case you need to fight. And what's more is it stores it in a really handy area which is very close to the liver so that you can easily access the glucose and the sugar. Hence why you've got more blood sugar in your body, okay, when you're feeling more stressed. Now, over time, the body mistrusts the actual mind and body and stores extra fat just in case, because it just feels like there's always danger, there's danger, there's danger. Must hold on to this, must keep hold of this energy in case I need to get quick access to it, must store it as fat. So now you can see that if we're not getting rid of cortisol from our body, that could be in the body for days from one stressful situation, then guess what? We're putting weight around the middle. So the modern day stress is actually causing us a lot of problems here. So what is happening here is that we have been living, if you've got fat around the middle, I'm going to hazard a guess to say that you've been feeling quite anxious for quite some time, whether you know it or not, or overwhelmed or stressed. And so instead of it being like a normal level of anxiety, so if you look at this line here, I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, but the stress goes up into high anxiety, and it should come down to neutral and then finally into a relaxed place. But what happens is, when you're living in very high anxiety, if you start to come down to just this medium level, you think that this is neutral. You might even think that this is relaxed. So we're never really truly allowing ourselves to come all the way down into relaxation. So you're basically, if you imagine a cheetah chasing after a zebra, it's basically like you're running away constantly from that cheetah. Now, what you would normally do is that zebra, you would take all your energy, all your muscle strength and everything, all the adrenal stuff that takes everything away from your organs, everything away from your systems, and all the way to the extremities to run, and then you would relax, recuperate, re-energize, and be completely floored. But we're staying in that running state all the time without actually allowing ourselves to rest. So that means all the systems are not getting the support that they need, the endocrine system, the nervous system, everything. So when you're constantly stressed, you're actually depriving a lot of the parts of your body the energy and the support that it needs. So the reason I've got tests up there is because part of the adrenal fatigue bundle is we give you access to proper official cortisol tests that get sent off to the labs that tell you exactly where you are in your cortisol every couple of hours of the day, so you can work out if your cortisol levels are too high, too low, generally imbalanced. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night, for example, it might be that your cortisol levels are back to front. And then based on that, we can give you one of three kits. These kits are actually supplements, and they're supplements designed for each stage of adrenal fatigue, which I will come on to a little bit later. So what happens then? We get into this spiral. This is a spiral that we all find a lot of ourselves in. This is something that I drew out when I did a workshop, an in-class workshop about hormones and adrenal fatigue. And you can see here, if you start with cravings, if you've got a sugar craving, for example, you might have caffeine, alcohol, which then gives you sugar cravings because you have that high and then you drop and then you need it again. And you're actually living off your adrenal glands. And when you're doing that, it makes you feel a low mood, hyper even, sometimes anxious, sometimes wired, okay? And that feeds back in to feeling overwhelmed, which makes you add more cortisol, okay? And then that can go increase your blood sugar, which increases your cravings, and this is going round in a loop like this. At the same time, you can move into a negative gut biome. So if you're eating all the wrong foods, then you've got an imbalance in your gut bacteria. So the bad gut bacteria is then forcing your hand to make you eat more rubbish, because that is what it craves to keep living, to keep going. Very interesting book called The Clever Gut Diet by Dr. Michael Mosley explains this in much more detail. And we go into the gut health in our adrenal fatigue bundle, but just to give you a little insight. So obviously, if we're feeling rubbish, if we're not taking the nutrients, if we're always on a sugar high, then we start to eventually feel demotivated over time. So you go through different stages. Initially, you're wired and tired. Then you move into feeling that's stage 1. That's why you're kind of hyper. You can't sleep because you're hyper all the time, because you've got all these stimulants going on. And the next phase is when your blood sugar gets completely knocked out. That gives you all those really, lethargic moments, afternoon slumps and headaches, and feeling irritable unless you eat, and then complete exhaustion, which is what I had at one point. I couldn't even go for a walk without laying down. So without any motivation, we don't feel like we need to exercise. So again, we're not getting rid of the cortisol that's coming from fight and flight, so it's adding straight back in. And without exercise, with all those stimulations, it causes lack of sleep. We wake up in the morning and we're craving sugary foods because of our cortisol and our lack of sleep. It's all connected. So if you are feeling some of these different symptoms, chances are you've also reached that place of adrenal fatigue at one of those 3 stages. Okay, so those of you that know me probably know all these things, but what we do at Inspire Rewire, and I've not yet got to the tips, I'm coming to that, but at Inspire Rewire, we do everything that's connected to all of this. So we're always teaching about gut health. We always do lots of free webinars, free talks, free meditations and things like this, especially in Inspire Rewire's tribe group, which is Facebook, but also webinars like this. But for example, next Sunday, we're doing a mini retreat online. That's it's with a talk, an empowering talk. It's a gentle yoga, meditation, and then journaling to really get out what's going on underneath. So it's a whole kind of holistic approach there. But all sorts of different things that we do, online courses as well, which I'll talk to you about later. So it's about finding what relaxes you, what is going to help take out the stress for you to bring the cortisol down and start to lose that weight without even doing much. So what is adrenal fatigue? It's about trying to live off your adrenal glands when there's nothing left in the tank. There's no fuel left in the tank. So when you're completely exhausted and you have a coffee goes right to the adrenal glands immediately. So it's actually making the engine turn over and over and not go anywhere. And that's when you can have an absolute crash and feel rubbish. Coffee for me only works if I'm feeling a little bit tired. It doesn't work if I'm exhausted, and that is the reason why. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all these symptoms, you can see them here, but if you're finding yourself if you look at the right side, maybe it'll give you an idea. You can't function in the morning without a coffee, or you don't get going till about 11, and then you kind of have a slump in the afternoon, you have your sugar and caffeine craving, and then you just feel really rubbish until you eat your evening meal. And then you start to feel better, then you get a second wind and you end up not going to sleep until late because you finally feel good. But then that impacts your insomnia and your lack of sleep and how you feel the next day. So these are some symptoms of adrenal fatigue. And as I said, there's different levels. So you can feel actually Superman or Superwoman doing loads of stuff because you're living off your adrenal glands and sugar and stimulants. And that is when the kit 1 helps you to actually bring that down. Everything in kit 1 helps to relax you and bring it down because you struggle to sleep, for example. Part 2 and kit 2 looks at how to balance your blood sugar and how to actually allow yourself to digest properly the nutrients that you're trying to put into your body. And then the kit 3 is what looks at how to give you energy because you're completely exhausted. It's just amazing. So I look at it like this, the stress tank. The stress tank is basically the minus represents too much cortisol in the body, too much stress, and the plus represents all the good stuff that we want to put in, all the things that will help us feel better and relaxed. And it's quite unique to each person, but as I've mentioned, things like yoga, because that also works for the mind, not just the body. Walking, because that also helps to do the fight and flight element. Little bits of exercise, but again, too much can cause stress on the body of some people. So it's about getting that balance. Once I had 3 superbugs a few years back in a row. I was really ill. And when I started to feel better just before the last superbug, I went for a run. And I thought I was feeling better because I'm always very motivated. The motivation was never really an issue for me. But when I got back, as soon as I got back, my glands came up and I started to feel really ill. And within moments, I had infected tonsillitis because I basically just knocked out my immune system. And that's why sometimes you can get inflammation, and your immune system can be really down if you've got adrenal fatigue because it's just not got enough to keep you well. So that's another reason to relax, to keep your immune system strong. So your pluses are your oxytocin, your dopamine, your serotonin, and your endorphins. So your endorphins is your movement, your serotonin, and your dopamine is a sense of achievement. So if you're a go-getter and you're giving yourself a massive list like this and you're not ticking things off and you're feeling bad, then guess what? You're giving yourself more cortisol, not the dopamine. So your goal setting is a whole other workshop really of how you manage your mind in that way and how you manage your stresses. I have a whole workshop on to do or not to do. That is the question, and it's about to-do lists. I do have an audio copy of that as well that's in the Adrenal Fatigue bundle. And then you've got the oxytocin, which is your love, your bonding hormone, and things that just make you laugh and bring you joy. Even something as a heartfelt movie that makes you laugh. And also cathartic crying can also help release stress. Okay, so it's things like this. Now this is the one. This is the biggie. This is the one. You probably can't see if my face is covering some of these things because I'm using a certain system tonight. But the star on the right-hand side is basically saying that we provide supplements, cortisol tests, mindset videos. We have the naturopathic doctor delivering PowerPoint presentations. We've got meal plans. We have got so much in this adrenal fatigue bundle. And this content here has come directly from that. So it's just a little taster. We've got 3 elements: reduce stress, manage nutrition, and get the balance of exercise. So in terms of reducing stress, I've talked a little bit about your negative emotions and what's going on inside your head, and if you're that kind of person, as I was, as I still can be, and it's about rewiring those. Exploring a little bit deeper, so is it coming from a subconscious place, some trauma that you've not overcome that needs to be looked at? People in your life that drain you, that can cause stress, and relationships, friendships, and maybe your line of work that you're in. Have a look at that. So we press pause. This is what Inspire Rewire is all about. It's about pressing pause. It's about checking in what's going on with yourself and making a new choice. So that choice could be as simple as taking a deep breath. We're sharing all sorts of deep breath work in the tribe as well. Or it could be, just claiming your me time. I always say that my me time is for everybody else's health and safety, because otherwise I'll go crazy and other people suffer because of that. So it's just about kind of carving out time for yourself and protecting it, because nobody is going to do it for you, no matter how much people love you. You have to claim it for yourself. So especially if you're a carer and you're looking after other people, whether it's your profession, whether it's young children or even older children, or whether it's older parents, it's something to keep in mind. And also just take a little bit of a distance from all that bees in brain, my best friend calls it, which is just noise, 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 noise. Sometimes we just need silence. So when it comes to nutrition, if you do tend to go on diets, you could be causing trauma and stress to your body because it thinks it's in starvation mode. So be very careful when you're doing that kind of dieting. If you just try to take less sugar, less alcohol, and less carbs, it's going to make a massive difference. Processed foods and things like this. But step by step, because if you do it, all at once, it can be a lot of stress on the body. What you can bring in though is your B vitamins for energy. C is a very underestimated in how it can help combat stress. Magnesium for sleeping, and energy adaptogen herbs. If you've not heard of them, give them a Google. We talk a lot about them in adrenal fatigue. The best one I can give you is ashwagandha, which helps to balance each person's individual cortisol levels. I mean, how amazing is that? Just be aware that it's not always good for everybody. So it's always important to kind of do your own research and also speak to a naturopathic doctor. Or again, in the adrenal fatigue bundle, you'll find out, a little bit more about that. Extra protein stops you craving the sugars as well, and it keeps you energized. And essential fats are really important for making everything work in the body. If you don't know about probiotics, I do have a blog. It's called My Morning Routine for Overcoming Fatigue. There's loads of tips in there, okay? So that might be really helpful for you if you feel you are struggling with adrenal fatigue. Try to eat a little bit and often so you're not overwhelming your digestive system. If you don't get hungry in the morning, you could be in one of the stages of adrenal fatigue, or you might be really starving in the morning. I've been both because I've been through all those stages of fatigue. So in that case, try to have something in the morning, have some protein, get everything moving. So again, if you feel like you're having insomnia and just maybe get up, have a relaxing tea, walk around and then go back to bed. That's what I say. I have a whole bundle on insomnia, a separate bundle, but I do cover a lot of insomnia and adrenal fatigue because it's one of the symptoms. Then walking obviously with the endorphins, and then the whole aerobic and non-aerobic exercise, so the getting out of breath and the not getting out of breath combination, the yin and the yang, is a very personal trial and error process. So sometimes I overdo it and it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it's finding out your own balance with that. And listening to the niggles of the body. So there's a difference between lethargy and being lazy. All right. So try not to beat yourself up if you just haven't got the energy. Sometimes I will do one sun salutation if I think I'm being lethargic. And if I do it and feel better, then I go for a walk, for example. And if I feel rubbish after it, then I need to rest. That's one of the ways that I test it. So good news is whatever you're feeling, you can recover from it. These are some pictures of myself when I was with my superbugs. My skin's very dry, my hair's very thin, my nails are very brittle. That's on the surface. Underneath, I'm absolutely knackered. I'm, not in a good mood, missing out on life and feeling like I'm just, constantly ill. And it did take a little while to kind of retrain myself, rewire my way of thinking, my thoughts, saying no, being okay with not doing stuff, with saying no, and all these different things. But trust me when I say you can't move forward from this. So if you were interested in the adrenal fatigue bundle, there's the website, but there's a little list here of all the stuff. There is so much more to the bundle, but I'm not going to list it all on here. I'll leave it for you to read. If it's calling to you, then you know what to do. If it doesn't feel like anything linked to you, then that's absolutely fine. But if it is, it takes you through step by step exactly what you need to do from somebody that has been there, okay? And I had to find this all out for myself the hard way. And that's why I've put it into this really simple process of part 1 is education, part 2 is testing, so laboratory tests, but also tests you can do at home for yourself. And part 3 is healing, and it's all done in written, audio, and video, so you can, whatever energy level that you've got. And lots of little videos to help you have quick fixes if you haven't got time to watch a full video and things like this. And of course, the 3 kits. So the 3 different supplement packs, depending on what level of fatigue you're at, which we can understand through the tests that you do. But also there's the quiz. So if you've not done the energy quiz, I can help you to understand more about yourself, and I will get back to you personally if you fill that quiz out. You'll find the quiz on that website. So to make this adrenal fatigue bundle, I partnered with Gabby Forrester, who is a naturopathic doctor, who's been working with people for 20 years, all the different things in the body, as much as you can imagine. And it's just an absolute wealth of information. It's just been a pleasure to put this pack together with her. These are the costs for the adrenal fatigue bundle. There's absolutely hundreds of pounds worth of information in there. I would say it's priceless, to be honest. If you feel like this is absolutely nothing. So you can either buy the bits separately and just go at your own pace, or you can just buy the whole bundle, including 2 coaching sessions from me, and that will be online. So wherever you are, you'll be able to reach me. It can take between 6 months to 2 years to truly sort of bring yourself back. So this is a long haul. This is taking your time. I do lots of live Q&A sessions as well, with the Adrenal Fatigue Bundle group to help through. So you're not on your own. Once you've bought it, you still do have access to me. And then finally, we have my information. So do join the Facebook group. As I said, there's lots of free things in there. Have a look at the website, see if there's anything that's of interest to you. We do retreats, wellbeing festivals, online courses for journaling, chakra series, insomnia bundle, adrenal fatigue bundle. We've got live sessions, NLP power hour to understand your mind, one technique every month. We've got evening relaxation spa evenings, mini retreats online and in person as well, all sorts really. So just take your time, have a look around, and hopefully I'll see you on another webinar or in one of our groups very soon. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you got lots of tips from that. Bye for now.